Let's talk about vibrato on the violin and the viola. Before you ever attempt vibrato, it's extremely important that all of your left hand foundations and right hand foundations are really secure. So if you have a wrist that looks like this, it's not going to work. If you have a bow hold that looks like this, then you should be addressing that first. When doing vibrato, it's important to remember that this takes time and practice. It will not come right away, and if you work on it consistently, then you have a much better chance of being able to start using it in your playing as soon as possible. When we start vibrato with the violin and viola, we're going to start in what we call guitar position. So make sure that the instrument is tucked away under your arm, and we're not going to start with the bow. We're not going to go up in playing position quite yet. Take your left thumb and just put it on the side of the neck as we normally do, just like that. And we're not even going to use any fingers. Make sure your fingers are kind of naturally curved as if they're about to drop down on the string. And all we're going to do is we're going to tap our knuckles into this E peg, or for violas, into the A peg. We're just going to get used to doing that. Making sure that our entire arm, is doing this motion. It's not just from the wrist, and we want to make sure that our thumb is staying in place. We don't want to do this. We want to make sure that our thumb is in place and that our arm is doing this motion to get our knuckles to just tap into the E peg, or for the A peg for violas. Just get used to this motion, going back and forth. Keep it really relaxed. Make sure your shoulders are relaxed, and just get used to this motion. We're then going to use our second finger. And we're going to put it on the note F natural on the D string. So this note right here. Make sure that you start with your finger nice and curved and tall. If your finger looks like this, it will not work. It needs to be tall, and your entire hand needs to stay curved. Then do the exact same motion while keeping your second finger down on the note F. We don't want to slide our hand up and down the fingerboard. And again, our thumb stays in its place and our second finger stays on the note F, and we're just going back and forth between the peg. You'll notice that my knuckles are flexible and they are moving. So if I were to show you here, my finger is kind of going back and forth, opening up and closing, going from tall to slightly not collapsed, but it's just being flexible with the motion of the arm. So we're just going to get used to that. You shouldn't have to squeeze. You shouldn't be pressing too hard on your finger. It's just going back and forth. Another thing to keep in mind as we do this is make sure that your first finger is not pressing up against the side of the neck, or else you're going to get this, right? So to review, thumb goes on the left side of the neck and it stays where it is. Second finger drops down in the note F natural, stays nice and tall. And without your first finger pressing against the side of the neck, you're just going to go back and forth, just tapping your knuckle into the back of the peg. And just get used to this. You'll notice that, again, my entire arm is involved in this process. This is an arm vibrato, not a wrist vibrato. So we're just going back and forth, and getting used to this motion, making sure that it's comfortable. Next, we're going to bring our instrument up into playing position, but we're not going to use our bow quite yet. Do the same thing. Think about your thumb on the side of the neck, pointing up to the sky. Second finger down on the note F natural. And I like to support my violin or viola here. I like to use my right hand, since we're not using the bow yet, to just support here to make sure that the instrument is not falling and that we're not bringing it down. So while supporting it, we're going to do that exact same motion. Again, our second finger is staying on the note. It's not going up and down the instrument. Our thumb is staying on the side of the neck, and we're just going back into that peg. My entire arm is a part of this process. My wrist stays straight, my fingers stay curved and flexible. Just get used to that process. Once you do that, you can try it with your third finger as another one that you can use. Try with your first finger. You can try with your fourth finger, which is a little bit trickier, but you can still do it. I find that second finger is the easiest though. So get used to this motion. One more thing that I like to think about is thinking about a heavy arm, right? Thinking about my arm just being weighed down, almost like there's a small child hanging off of it. And that'll help you get this kind of back and forth motion to generate from the arm and not just up here. This is a different type of vibrato, but for right now, we're using arm vibrato and we want this wide motion, back and forth and back and forth. When we use the bow, it's going to be tricky to coordinate doing this with our left hand and doing this with our right hand. What I like to do is to start off warming up the vibrato, getting this correct motion, just going back and forth, and then trying to play with the bow for 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I rest, make sure that I'm still doing it correctly, making sure there's still no tension, everything is relaxed, and then try it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I just do that over and over again. You might get something that sounds like this. And that's because it's tricky to coordinate the left and the right hands together. That's why oftentimes when we start beginners, they don't use the bow at all, because you're trying to focus on something that your left hand is doing and trying to coordinate with your right hand doing something completely different. So again, to start off, just consistently go through that process. Starting down in guitar position, and the very first thing we didn't even use any fingers. Just get used to tapping your knuckles into the back of the peg, keeping your thumb stable. Once you do that, you add your second finger and do the same motion. My knuckles are relaxed, flexible, and my entire arm is moving. We bring that up into playing position, supporting with the right hand. Back and forth, back and forth. And then once we're comfortable with that, then we try adding the bow. Once you're comfortable doing that with the note F, you can try a third finger to add G. You can try first finger for E. And eventually fourth finger for A. This takes time and practice, so make sure you do this a little bit every day if you want to improve your vibrato skills.